Morning. And we also have our guest and friend of the show, which she laughs at, but it's true. Nancy Hyne, welcome. Thank you for joining us this morning.
Thank you, Crystal, for having me again. I know this always just feels like a chat with the girls. It's great. I love it.
That's lovely to hear. That's what we want. Absolutely. And so actually, by popular demand, I don't think we've ever said that. But actually, we were having Nancy on the show previously. I call it the show, but it's a live, it's a chat. But we were having Nancy sharing her fantastic viewpoints, and one of the viewers at the time was just saying, yes, I would love to know a little bit more breakdown of B Corp, and this is why we're here for you guys. So Nancy, thank you so much. We have heard lots about B Corp. Some people haven't heard anything, and I was really surprised because, especially on LinkedIn, that's all I'm seeing, but it's so true. You only are seeing what you immerse yourself in, and you forget there's a whole wave of people that might not have a foggiest clue about what's going on. So we all talk about the practice for better business. You know, Karen and I, we love discussing this. We always look at what we can do at very minuscule levels. If you are a micro business, there is always something that you can do all the way up to sort of as you grow your business, and you shouldn't wait until you're if you really want to make a positive change, you really don't have to wait until you have established yourself and you are successful. You can do it along the way. And this is like one of the many discussions we've been having with our fair Nancy here. So I think for the first part, let's talk about, there are different ways of instilling, let's just say, a more procedural role, would you say, like as in going through the steps, getting accreditation to actually show that this is much more than lip service, this is not greenwashing, you're under more stringent sort of like guidelines here. And one of them, so I don't know if you can actually list or, you know, say what other accreditation sort of processes there are, but the one that we're going to talk about and focus on is B Corp. But yes, absolutely, let's talk about what is B Corp in its essence, and I'll let you take it away, Nancy.
I will do. Yeah, you're right. There are loads of different certifications, and you know there's benefits to each. I'm not coming out saying that B Corp is the best one, but I can tell you why I like it and why a lot of my clients like it. So B Corp was actually started in the UK in 2015. It actually launched in the US beforehand in about 2008. So it's been around for a little while. But you're right, a lot of people haven't heard of it. It's actually been the last year or so, I think, where it's really grown, because something like it's grown by about 116% in the UK. So it's all about balancing people, planet, and profit in your business. And there's a framework that's been developed, and it's overseen by B Lab, who run the whole thing. And there's like a questionnaire that you fill out. It's online. You set up an account, and it asks you questions about your business. But what it does is it delves into, it's very holistic, and that's one of the things I really like about it. A lot of the other certifications perhaps focused just on people or just on your environmental impact. B Corp looks at everything. And I like that about it. It's a really holistic view, but also it's very inclusive. You can be a one-man or woman band, or you can be a global corporate, and you can still get B Corp certification. And also you can use the online tool without becoming a B Corp, without paying a penny. So it's really there. There's so much valuable lessons and learnings to be taken from it. And actually, particularly for small business, the biggest thing I find that challenges them in this area is, where do I start? Like, how do I even begin this process? I know that I need to be looking at my impact. I need to be improving it, but I just, you know, there's so much information, and I get totally overwhelmed and don't know where to start. And I think having this framework is so useful, and actually having the tool available free so that people can use it and learn from it is what I really, really like about it.
And what do you do at True Horizon to like help your clients, like guide them through that process?
Yeah, so it can be a bit of a scary process when you first kind of set up the account and you look at all the questions that come up. It is complicated and it is difficult. It's not impossible, but you will need to make changes in your business. Even the big companies like Cook and Elvis and Cressy, if you've heard of them, Patagonia, they all talk about the fact that this wasn't easy for them either. So it is it is a commitment to do, and it can seem a bit overwhelming. You can kind of get to questions and go, I have no idea what that's asking me for. And so working with a consultant like me or a B leader, so I've done training through B Lab to understand kind of the ins and outs of the tool and how the questions work, and the gating questions, i.e. how they make sure it's applicable to businesses of all sizes, can really talk you through that process, can highlight quick wins. A lot of times people go, I definitely don't have this thing that they're asking for. And as you delve into it, you realize that they probably do, or they could easily get it. So it's just about really being able to simplify the process of going through your BIA, B Impact Assessment, but also then understanding what comes next, how you get through the verification, because it's not just about filling the form out and saying, tick, 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 I do this. You then have to go through a verification process whereby you have an analyst who says, okay, you've said you donate X amount to charity every year. Give me evidence. Who did you donate to? How much was that? And how does that compare to your revenue every year? So it is quite an intensive process, and it can be overwhelming. And so sometimes it's good to have somebody there just to go, what are they asking me for? How can I do this? Is this applicable to me? Or is this maybe a longer term goal that I should be looking at? And what can I start with? Because it's very much about improvement, not perfection. If you get B Corp certified, that doesn't mean you're doing everything right. That means you've got to a minimum level, which is 80 points across the board. And you've worked really hard to get there, but then year on year, you're going to work to improve that. So, I get people going, we don't recycle enough, or we use plastic in our packaging. Does that mean we can't become a B Corp? No, it doesn't. But it will encourage you to look at how you can change that, not overnight, because it won't happen overnight, but how you can look at your impacts and start to improve them. So it's very much focused on improvement, not perfection.
That's really interesting point that you say there. I mean, two things I picked up. So can you do it as a sole trader? I think you've mentioned before you can, can't you? You don't have to be a limited company. So anyone could do it. So I could apply and do that.
Right, yes.
But the other thing you said about the perfection, and I think as well, I think a lot of people perceive, we were talking about earlier, that this company is a B Corp, therefore why they're doing this, why they're not doing that. And but they've been doing this and that's not very good, and they've been doing that, that's okay, but not good enough. So I think there's that education process as well, isn't there, around B Corp and what it actually means, that it's not just about total perfection.
I think as well, I mean, we've seen it in the news, and we were just saying it's probably better to have the discussion, but I mean, I've seen brands that have been B Corp certified, and then you'll speak to a journalist that's trying to get into maybe sort of how are you manufacturing, like what's that process, where's the workflow, or where's the staff coming from, and they won't answer just yet because they know they've got to work on it. So when you're aware of that, like if it's a brand, for example, we wouldn't know. And I think we're in the world of greenwashing, and a lot of people pay a lot of lip service, but actually surely having something like B Corp, if they are aware of it, would they hold that company to account? Like what level of interaction? Like, for example, we're just talking at the moment, it's everywhere at the moment in terms of like Brewdog, and yeah, I've heard some really good things about the company before the whole workers letter it was made public, and it's a HR/PR crisis, and you're thinking, wow, it's affecting their share price. I think I read that it could be affecting their share price or something, but again, it has ramifications. And all the time you look at, well, they've got such this drive for sustainability, everyone's been looking at them, so you've got to really weigh it up, and also be aware that even though they may be B Corp certified, like you said, this is an ongoing process. And I really liked his response. Usually I'm quite cynical, and but I really liked his response, and I feel that for a young man and a young team to have grown exponentially and really driven up, shaken up that marketplace, rightly or wrongly. Like, I've heard some, you just have to go on Twitter and just hear all the criticism over what they do. But as a business and what they're trying to achieve and put back in, I feel like, there's so much room for improvement. So does something like B Corp, does it get taken away, do you know? Or, is it something that you've worked so hard to achieve it? And I heard from B Lab that 1 in 3 make that process, like 1 in 3 get that certification, which I was a bit shocked over. It just goes to show.
Yeah, we were saying that yesterday, weren't you, when you came up in the post. I was like, really, only 1 in 3? We'll have to ask Nancy about that.
Yeah, a couple of things on the BrewDog point. Yeah, it doesn't make you perfect. It doesn't mean you're never going to slip up. It doesn't mean that there's things in your supply chain that you're working to improve that you simply cannot change overnight. These things take time. And so, being a B Corp doesn't mean you're perfect. It means you have worked on things, you've highlighted things that need more work. And I think the key thing there is how you communicate it. Don't not answer the journalist. Say, we've done an assessment and we recognize that this happens in our supply chain. At the moment, it's not something we can deal with, or at the moment, the technology doesn't support any better, or at the moment, we're tied into a contract. But at the end of that contract, or as technology improves, or as our budgets allow, we will be able to change that. So being really honest about that and having those conversations rather than shying away from it. I think people feel they can only talk about it when they feel perfect. I think it's actually more encouraging to hear big companies like this go through tough things. And so in a way, with the B Corp side of things, yes, B Lab are investigating and they have a process set whereby they will investigate the claims and make it fair for BrewDog and for the employees and delve into some of those areas. I know that's a work in progress. I don't know what the results would be. In theory, yes, they could lose their B certification, or it could be put on hold, for example, until they improve things. I don't know quite how they'll manage it, but yes, it's definitely under investigation. And I think ultimately this was going to happen at some point. There's so many big companies. There's so much going on, and I think there is that jump to judge immediately rather than, as you say, take a balanced view on, do you know what, they do this really well, but they do need to work on this bit. And as long as they can put their hands up and go, yeah, okay, we messed up, but here's how we're working to fix it, I think that's acceptable. And I think actually that's probably more encouraging for people who go, we have a real issue engaging with our employees for whatever reason. It is tough, and you can't please everybody all the time. So in some ways, not for BrewDog, that's not great, but for the B Corp community and for people looking in on the B Corp community, it's important to see that this stuff gets flagged and dealt with. And I think it'll be interesting to see the results and how it kind of pans out. And hopefully the result is that it gives B Corp that gravitas, because yeah, you're right, 1 in 3 people get through because it is difficult, and deliberately so. This isn't something that you can just do overnight, otherwise it has no value, it has no worth. The likes of Boots and Waitrose have sections on their website, if you go and look, that are dedicated to B Corp. So they are recognizing that this is something that's becoming more prevalent, it's something that people want to see, and that it has value. And it doesn't mean that you can't be sustainable or you can't be ethical if you're not a B Corp. It may not be for you, that's fine. But in some ways, it really helps that communication piece. And the community, the B Corp community, are all about collaboration and sharing. And, I think a lot of them talk about their challenges and the things they're doing. Cook, for example, talk very much about how difficult it is to have a sustainable supply chain in the food industry. It's incredibly difficult, and they don't profess to be perfect. They're working on it. So by them sharing all this knowledge and sharing with other B Corps and collaborating, it is a really powerful tool. But yeah, I think ultimately, I think it's a good thing that this has all come out and that we'll all see how it's handled and how it's dealt with. And hopefully the certification will be the stronger for it as well.
Yeah, and also, I mean, in a way, it's just nice to know, isn't it? Because we sort of read the response for, and listening to both sides of the story. But actually, let's just take it away. If you weren't B Corp certified at that point, it's just your word versus
Yeah.
Your employees like, oh yeah, we and I mean, how many years have I been in PR and I've seen that statement go out? You know, it's almost like we're really sorry. We'll learn from our mistakes and we'll do something better. Well, actually, here's a third party that will actually hold them accountable to make those changes. So actually, from my perspective, when I'm seeing something that is B Corp registered, I feel that actually, if you're going to say that you want to do things in a certain way for, like you say, you know, people, planet, profit, that to me is something that is really looking and evaluating all aspects of how you're doing that. And like you say, you don't get the certification without it. Could you talk us through then the steps that you take in terms of, you know, like to get certified, because you say it's really difficult. Can we just drill down a little bit more?
Yes.
I think there's a lot of us, especially if you are a small business owner, my view is that a lot of us might be like, oh my God, I don't have like teams. I mean, we work, Karen and I particularly, our model isn't necessarily hiring. You know, we've worked for years on a much more lateral employment and hiring and of resources and support teams. So, you know, when it comes to maybe employee section, that might be something, you know, do we get penalized for that? You know, or if you're a small business owner, like if you're not, again, it would just be really great to hear a little bit more about how to get started and what to expect.
Yeah, and I want to focus on the sort of micro business, because that was a few questions came up about that. So Karen, you're absolutely right. You don't have to be a limited company. You can be a sole trader, but there is a caveat on that. One of the really key central things about B Corp is that you make a legal change in your business. So in the US, they have something called a benefit corporation. US companies would go down that route. Here, we don't have that. So what we do is we're obliged to change our articles of association. So when you set up your business as a limited company, you have a legal document that sets out how your business operates. You actually have to amend that and put in articles to say that you are considering stakeholders as a whole, not just shareholders, i.e. it's not just money, you're considering people and planet in your business decision. So it's a legal change that you have to make. So for some people, so probably more bigger companies, that's a real commitment. They've got to get all their shareholders and their board on board with that to do that. So that's quite key. As a sole trader, because you don't have articles of association, your only obligation then is to sign the B Corp agreement. Now, there's a slight so there's a section within the impact assessment that looks at what they call mission lock, and that's what the mission lock means. So if you do the full change, you get 10 points for that. If you can only do the signing the agreement, you get 2.5 points. So you're not penalized, but it's just a different level of commitment just based on your business structure. But as and when you become limited, I wouldn't go limited purely to do it because it's not a deal breaker. I actually just, we submitted with a client, sole trader, photographer, just submitted her B Corp this week. She's not limited and she's a one-woman band, so it is not impossible. To the employee's point, similar thing. There's called gating questions. So when you first go in, you fill out some information about your business. One of those is, how many employees do you have? As a solopreneur, you would put 0 because you don't count as an employee. Therefore, all the questions relating to employees will not crop up for you. And that's the way they've made it applicable. So it can be different industries. So if you think about sort of agriculture versus manufacturing, that's going to be really different impacts compared to a service-based business. So those gating questions are designed to understand your industry, whether you have, a premises or you work from home, and then the questions will change based on that. So that gets you on, it's what they call a track, and you want to make sure you're on the right track. Otherwise you'll be seeing questions where you go, this doesn't make any sense. They're not relevant to me. So I think sometimes that's what happened, and people go, well, I can't do it because I can't answer this. And they might be on the wrong track. So do bear that in mind. If you do get on the wrong track, you need to contact B Lab because only they can change it for you, but that's just an aside. So then within the process, you have 5 different sections. So one is governance, i.e. what are the processes you have in place to manage your business? This does tend to be trickier for smaller businesses. And I would recommend looking at the ones that actually benefit you in some way. So, don't just write a procedure for the the hell of it, you know. But do you have a code of conduct? Can you, you know, when you're working with other people, can you say, these are my values, they're here, they're written down, they're on my website? As micro businesses, we often think, well, does that really matter? Well, does it? If somebody's looking to work for you and they can easily pick out your values and what you stand for, is that not just much easier for them? You know, so have a think about the ones that are relevant. The governance bit can feel a bit daunting as a small business, but there are ones in there that may seem irrelevant, but as you write them, you go, actually, it was a useful process for me to really pick out, what do I stand for? What is my mission statement? So the governance piece is a big one. The other one that tends to throw micro businesses a little is the environment section, partly because it's a little bit technical. So it asks you about, you know, your carbon emissions and things. So a lot of people go, oh my God, I don't know how to do that. It's not a terrifying process, I promise it, when it's broken down. You know, if you have electricity bills, you can calculate your carbon emissions. So don't panic about that, but get some guidance if you need help with that. And then you have other sections like if you do have employees, there will be an employee section. So, you know, are you paying them the living wage? Do they have benefits like pension or healthcare? Do they have a medium for feeding back to say, I'm happy or not happy? So that does exist. So we'll see how Brewdog come out of that one in their recertification. And there's bits about community, how you give back to community. Do you donate to charity? Do you volunteer your time? And your clients as well. How do you serve your clients? How do you improve your processes for your clients? How do you get feedback from them and then build that into how you improve as well? Certifications perhaps, or warranties that you give them. So it really does look at everything holistically, and it doesn't matter if you score lower in certain areas, that's really normal. Most people start out the process somewhere between 30 and 50 points, totally normal. Don't be discouraged by that. But before you can click submit, you've got to have 80 points across the board. You don't need a minimum in any individual section, but you will need 80 across the board. And then once you're there, you hit submit. And then the next phase, which does have quite a queue at the moment because of the massive uptake of people who are wanting to do it, is the verification stage, where they will start to ask you to evidence. So as you're going through, make sure you can think about things that you could use to evidence. So whether it's a little spreadsheet you pull together that has a list of all the donations you've made, or, you know, a policy that you wrote, a code of conduct or a sustainability statement that you wrote, that you can show them as evidence that you've done that. So do be thinking you won't have to evidence anything, but you won't know what they're going to ask you to evidence until you because they'll sample it. So yeah, you kind of have to have in your mind what you're going to provide as evidence. And then do be aware, in that verification stage, your points can drop. So it's worth aiming to have 85 to 90 points when you go into that. So if you do drop, you're still okay. But the analyst is there to help you. They will give you advice. If they don't feel the evidence you've provided is quite there, they'll go, do you know what, if you did X, Y, and Z, that would be totally fine. So they're not there to catch you out or trick you. They are there to actually support you through the process. I'm trying to think what else is really key. And yeah, there are fees associated as well. So there's a submission fee, which I think is 250 quid when you hit submit, and then you have an annual fee, and that is based on your turnover. So based on the size of your business and how much you earn, your annual fee will reflect that.
What's the starting point for the annual fees?
The lowest is £1,000, I think, a year. And I think that's under £150,000 a year turnover.
And how long does the process take?
So it can really vary. It depends where you're at. That sort of initial stage of getting your impact assessment ready, it depends what you do and don't have. So if you're starting at 20 versus starting at 60, you know, there's a real difference. And also how easy it is, how much time you've got, because you can't just hand it over to a consultant. They can certainly guide you on can we have a look at doing this, and this is what I'll need from you. But yeah, you will need time. Make sure you allocate some time. So actually having somebody to be accountable for, to go, okay, I want you to do this and you've got a month to do it. Does that seem reasonable? Great, we'll meet up in a month, is quite useful. That's normally the thing that people come to me with. I really want to do this and I keep starting it and I just keep getting distracted. So I need someone to just push me through it. But ultimately you can do it as quickly or as slowly as you like. There's no sort of obligation from that perspective. There is an up to an 8-month queue at the moment to get verified though. So it is a little bit frustrating, I know, but also testament to the fact that so many people are recognizing this as something that is, you know, a good thing to be doing.
That's amazing, isn't it? I think that you've got that queue for so long and people wanting to do it. That's really positive, isn't it? And one of the things you were saying, I think is really key. I mean, we have these discussions as well when Lynn was talking about as well on LinkedIn, was about what you put on your about page and people sharing their values and what they're doing and their mission statement and all of that. And, you know, it should be out there. You should be telling your story and be transparent and be telling people your progress, because I think it's quite daunting for some people if they just see these companies and they only show the good things. You're going to go, well, I can never measure up to that, you know.
Yeah,
so if
100%.
you're hearing their struggles and everything like that, then you go, okay, well, like maybe I can do this too.
Yeah, exactly. Don't be discouraged. You know, it is designed to help you make improvements. So you will not fill it out and straight away be over. I've never heard of a single company being able to fill it out and get over 80, but that's where the value is. It is helping you to improve. So I think, and then it provides this clear path of, right, these are the things I'm pretty sure I can do in the next 6 months to a year. These are the things I actually need to be thinking about longer term. So it helps you build that into your business processes. So if you don't have employees, you can even look at the employee section and go, okay, if I am thinking about hiring someone, what should I be thinking about? What are the things I need to be considering before I send out that advert? You know, have I made it inclusive? Am I paying the living wage? You know, where am I advertising it? Am I making sure that people from different nationalities or backgrounds will see it and feel that, you know, they could potentially apply to it? So it does help you plan as well, which is quite useful.
Yeah, get really streamlined. One of the questions then, okay, so as a small business owner, because we, you know, solopreneur, I don't have employees, but I use a VA, virtual assistant, and I also collaborate with other people like Christelle and Lynn and another guy, Ian, SEO and stuff like that. So how does that factor in? Is it kind of treated in the same way as a client? I mean, should you be looking at putting that application for a VA out to everybody, or can I choose who I want because they're aligned to my values?
I think you should choose your VA definitely aligned to your values, but have a think about how you're choosing your VA. You know, what are the things you're looking for? Yeah, you're going to be looking at price, that's fine. But yeah, you know, if you have something that says you're capturing information, you want your supply chain or the people you work with to have similar values, yeah, you should be capturing that. You know, even the big corporates these days, that comes on every, you know, to use a corporate term, RFP or RFQ. If you're sending out for a job, you're going to be asking certain things. What can you deliver on blah, blah, blah. And more often than not these days, environment, social comes into that. So yeah, why shouldn't we be doing that? To your question about whether or not they're employees, B Lab do define it. So if it's somebody you work with who you would potentially view as a contractor, but they work for you for more than 20 hours a week and for more than 6 months of the year, B Lab would class that as an employee for the purposes of the B impact assessment. They just have to draw a line somewhere as to whether somebody's an employee. Right? But probably if you had a VA, maybe 20 hours a week, you probably nearly hired them anyway for more than 6 months of the year. So that would be kind of more a part-time employee rather than a contractor.
Okay, interesting.
Oh, so many questions. I mean, the other thing that I would say is a lot of people will have heard this or watched this video and thought, right, that's a lot of work. What are the benefits? Like, where does the value of B Corp come in? And also going on to, I mean, we've discussed this, Nancy, how are you communicating like this progress? Because from a PR angle, and showing that you're stepping up to be a leader and you're actually trying to show by example, you know, and sort of drive the way forward. We can also discuss that as well. But I mean, from my point, the benefits and the values that we've seen, are you able to sort of share on that?
Yeah, definitely there's a reputational benefit associated with that. And I think historically that's why people did CSR or you know, that side of things, for the reputational benefits. From a planning perspective, I think I touched on that a little bit. Okay, actually, these are things I hadn't thought about for my business. What I haven't considered them. And the way that the BIA is set up, it's kind of tiered. You get different points for different, so you can already see, right, well, I do this, but if I moved on to this, that would get me a few more points. Not that it's about getting points, but you can also see where you can progress to improve. There's cost benefits associated. If you do have employees, I read a stat the other day that said last year, of the people who were B Corps and who were hiring, 70% of the people who sat in that interview said the fact that you're a B Corp is a big part of the reason I applied, because they think, okay, well, that's going to mean you need to factor me into, you know, how you pay me and volunteer day, you know, that side of things. So, you know, attracting and retaining employees, clients, you know, if you're responding to bids and you can really have a concise message about your sustainability and your ethics, it makes it so much easier to, especially if you're working with bigger companies, they are going to be asking you this sort of thing. So you can go in and go, and quite often it'll be, do you have any certifications? And you can tick yes, rather than if you don't explain to us what you do, and then it's like, oh my God, where do I start? So easy tick for that one. Also cost benefits from the fact that, you know, particularly in the environment section, you're starting to understand your impacts and putting targets in place. So that's what it's trying to help you do. Start to gather data about your impacts and put targets in place. So whether it's, you know, you're going to reduce your waste or reduce your energy, that all has a cost associated with it. So if you're working to do that, you're actually making your business more efficient in the way it runs. And the good thing about tracking it, which people shy away from a little bit, is you can see how much you've saved and you can invest that into other areas of your business. And again, if you're moving from like working from home to a shared space or getting an office, this stuff is really useful to be thinking about before you do that. How, you know, if I want to understand my consumption, does my landlord give me that opportunity? If I do work really hard to save energy and then I'm still getting paid just on, you know, the square footage that I'm renting, well, that's rubbish, Mr. Landlord. That's not good enough for me, and therefore I'll go elsewhere. So it does kind of make your business decisions and your processes more streamlined. And I had a client say to me today, even though she was fairly clear on her mission and her business values and all of that, she said actually working through this process really helped her clarify it. And we worked a lot about how she was getting feedback from her clients. So I think we all do the usual, you know, were you happy? You know, was I cost effective, blah, blah, blah. And I'm like, okay, well, your values are this, and you're stating in your mission statement that this is what you want your business to do. Are you checking in at the end that that's happened? You know, did they get that benefit that really sets you apart? And so we worked on that sort of feedback process. So I think, especially for a micro business, it just cements what you're doing and forces you to work through and write things down and actually really document how you operate and the way you want to operate. And then as you grow, as you scale, that stuff is cemented into your business. You can keep hold of it as you grow. And my ultimate vision is that one day these startups, these scale ups will be able to tackle, you know, the Amazons of the world. Suddenly nobody's going to be buying from Amazon, because why would you? There's this company over here that has all these values and ethics and can offer the same service because they built it in at the beginning. And I think that would be amazing, not to tackle Amazon. They have their uses. I'm not just using Amazon, but, you know, companies that are less focused on kind of purpose and more on profit, we want to flip that around. And it really starts with embedding that sorry, I'm looking at time, I'm going over, embedding that in your business from an early stage.
And also investment going forwards. I find that, I mean, catching an episode of Dragon's Den the other day, somebody saying, oh, I'm only going to invest in fashion with proven sustainability creds, and it was just such a joy to hear that actually this dragon was going to really drill down, like, that's why I'm out, unless you can prove it to me, I'm out. Thank you. And it was just such a quick decision. And I feel that, again, not saying that it's 100% perfect, but just to say we understand what the issues are and we're going to look into this, and this is how we're going, just be able to have that process that you say is absolutely crucial nowadays. Like you say, employees, customers, and we have seen recorded growth in companies, like those that have been B Corp certified have seen a significant growth in terms of like sales and, like you say, employee retention. So I think there's so much benefit and value there as a business as you're growing.
I think as well, it's just like you say, I think it's really key having that foundation and process in place, because when you do suddenly scale up, if you haven't got systems and processes in place, you're going to really struggle. It's going to be a nightmare. And I think half the reason why you say that they're growing, not only because there's more demand, but because as soon as you start streamlining things in your business, it frees up other areas, and you can get a lot more done. You can take on more clients because you've got that process. And a small business owner, I know me and Christelle, we're working through this every week, aren't we? We've been in business for a long time, both of us, sort of 10 years more. But it's working through and getting all those really clean systems in place and very streamlined, that then allows you to take on much more and do things better, and follow up with clients and have all of those things in place. So I think it sounds like a brilliant way to make people do that right from the word go.
I'm also going to add in terms of communicating it, like just as to
this is your specialty, Christelle. Come on.
Well, no, again, this is what you and I have had this discussion. And you're like, how do I get my clients to then like go from one department? Because again, from a PR industry perspective, I am seeing some interesting conversations around we should be leading ESG, because I see it like back in the day, we talked about corporate reputation and corporate social responsibility. So I think that somewhere along the line, they're trying to say, well, from a PR perspective, which it was like, no, the business owners should be driving this, please. Let's but we can help you along that, because you should be communicating it. Is my view. Sorry.
100%.
I feel like if it comes from the business owner and the board, that this is agreed, I think that's the first step. It shouldn't be a PR that comes up to you.
No, it's authentic. Exactly. It's got to be authentic.
Yeah,
you're right.
And I think that, if you are applying for this accreditation, I've actually seen somebody that you've helped through the process. I've been watching her posts. She's been talking about it. Right, I've submitted it. This is what I'm doing. You're following them on that journey. And also the exciting things that you're learning, like share that, communicate that, share it with your team, your internal team as well. Don't just say we're doing it and then somebody's throwing it away. Get them involved in the process, like actually ask them, involve them. Be mindful of your industry and your community of when you're talking about that, but also to your public. Again, that logo is going to be really powerful, so making sure it's maybe on your ads or any of your marketing materials, really important, again on your website. All these elements, I definitely feel that there is definitely more to be done. It's not just about going through the process, getting that certification. It's what are you going to do with it, because again, these investors need to know. So it's not just
exactly. And actually that feeling that you can't be seen, that a benefit is being more profitable. It's like people want to separate it, like I can't want to be more profitable if I'm sustainable and ethical. Rubbish. Utterly rubbish. You cannot have a positive impact if you're not profitable. You need to have money coming in to be able to do those things. Don't do it as a lip service. Make it authentic. But then talk about the fact that, do you know what, I did get a client because I did X, Y, and Z, or became a B Corp. That was the reason they came to me. It's the two things are not, if you're doing it well, you should be more profitable by doing this, and that's okay. That's not something to shy away from. That is a positive thing. We all want to be more profitable, of course we do, and then have that positive impact. Link up to a charity or do so, pass that on. Even as a small business, we can do little things. We could go and do talks at schools. We can volunteer time. We can provide information. We can still pass on that impact that we have. And that's the whole point, that business as a force for good. But you've got to be profitable to do it.
Yeah, definitely.
The Puritan way of charity is not needed here. Thank you very much. Thank you so much. I'm sort of trying to have a look, see if there's any comments, but we'll go back. If you commented on the video on Facebook and either mine or Karen's page, we'll just make sure to ask you questions. Nancy will pop back in and answer them, because Karen and I can't. So we'll make sure that those are answered. If you have signed up to the newsletter, what I'm going to do is, Nancy, again, friend of the show, she's been on, she's had several discussion points that have all been super valid. So I'm going to put that in the newsletter, so when that drops on Thursday, you'll have a variety of other wonderful conversations that we've had with Nancy there. Otherwise, sorry folks, you're going to have to scroll through our massive YouTube channel now. It's like 50 odd videos to find them. So there's a benefit to signing up, don't forget that.
Yeah, I think it's episode number 60 today.
Oh my God.
Actually, Christelle, can you add me? I don't think I'm on it. I thought I'd signed up, but obviously I didn't do something right. So can you add me, please? Not to watch myself, obviously, that would be weird, but just in general.
That's fine.
You can.
3 of us soon.
I'm ticking the GDPR thing, whatever I need to, anyway.
Fantastic. But thank you so much. Join us next week for another episode. But again, 1,000 times, thank you so much for helping businesses get through this process, because this is why we're here, folks, to help you understand better so you can get moving and get doing. Thank you so much, and we'll see you next week. Bye, everyone.
Thanks, guys.